Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333 and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order as Chita. Now last time we were here together, we finished up our economics. Sure, we have quite a solid economic base built up, I'd say. We're going to go down this section real quick, that way we can get a this unit right here from the Imperial Guard divisions. Then I'm going to save and then head over to making our play. I believe this is going to kick off our next focus, but I'm not 100%, so we'll just have to wait and see. Before I unpause, we do need to check out the ideology of a military junta, which is government where the military is taking political power into its own hands without any democratic element. Often this involves a suspension of the constitution of the state and the rights contained therein. This leaves juntas free to stabilize the country into accepting their rule. An authoritarian oligarchic rule characterizes a junta with power shared among military leaders rather than centralized in a single person. Sometimes civilian governmental institutions continue to function as well, but with their activities supervised or even directed by the junta. Other times, the junta rules formally and directly, maintaining legitimacy through a variety of other methods, most often promises of future democratization or of reclaiming lost land. Usually junta takes power by a coup d'etat, though occasionally military leaders are invited to take control in times of crisis. Besides an emphasis on military strength and national security, they tend to differ greatly in their aims depending on circumstances. However, among all juntas, one ideal remains the same. The soldier protects, but he does not serve. Well, there we go. Out of curiosity, no, that's the same one. But we do have a new guy, Nikolai Kosov. With decades of military experience under his belt and the ability to fluently speak over 5 different languages, Nikolai Kosov is a man with many talents. Moving with his family to Harbin in 1918, Kosov was in exile from far before the hell of a civil war was able to affect him. From there, his career was quite colorful. First as an officer of the Fengtian Clique's army, then as head of the military transportation of a district in the newly established state of Manchukuo, then on to become head of Russia's counterintelligence agency, Manchukuo's 4th Army, and then finally member of its general staff. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Kosov was in charge of the training of Russian exile recruits in Harbin. Admin Semyonov's plan to invade the Russian Far East together, the RP did not escape Kosov's notice, and with a trained force of immigrants at its disposal, decided to offer his support. In the campaigns that followed, Kosov became a trusted figure within the newly established White Army, utilizing his many talents for both military matters and affairs of internal security. When Boris Shapunov took charge, Kosov was a prime candidate to take Shapunov's place as a White Army security expert. His fondness towards the Japanese and his deep connections to Manchukuo leads some to distrust him. He's nonetheless an irreplaceable component in the White Army's machine. Well, there we go. I always forget which one we want to go with. Let's do strategic theorem. We'll go with that. Specialized training. Next, let's do an Imperial Guard division. Colloquially, our army is often referred to as the Tsar's finest, a nickname intended to give pride to the many peasant conscripts making up our force. But some officers have proposed making the nickname a reality, concentrating a handpicked group of the most loyal, most experienced, most physically fit soldiers in a specialized unit. The old Tsar had their Imperial Guard, elite infantry that could not only handle any task, but also inspire others to greatness. It's only natural that Tsar Mikhail, the rightful emperor, has his own. There we go. Uruguay has conquered Vorkuta. That's interesting. I always forget that Germany has this little island up here now. Ooh, it looks like our credit rating has improved. How lovely. We went from dog dookie to just dookie. I'd probably describe that as just being dookie. It's Norway, right? And that is Germany. Okay. Now we can modify our officer corps. You could do delay or overwhelming attack. I don't know. It's not offering. Oh, here we do. Here's how we do it. I don't know how to mess with this, I'll be honest. I'll just leave it. The stranger's entry into Chita was a surprisingly simple thing. The White Army soldiers who stopped him at the border were no more interested about news from the West than they were his identity. From there, he found himself following the road for a short time before entering the city of Chita. As he entered the city, he could sense the tension building around him. Groups of soldiers glared at one another across the streets. Men loyal to the Tsar were outnumbered by the men loyal to the old White Army generals who ran the principality. Yet he could tell that these divisions were fresh, exceptionally so. There's something that could take years to boil over. Deciding to put the tension out of his mind, the stranger walked down the street until he came to a small hotel. Entering the lobby, he could see the other road-weary travelers sitting around the fireplace. Walking to the front desk, he ordered a room for the night and went to lay down. He took off his bulkier outer layers and lay down on the bed. As he lay there, his hand wandered to his left side, where burnt scars could be seen, dominating his flesh. The man thought back to the night he got them, when he tried to play hero and finally followed his conscience for the first time in that damn war. And it ended with his body burnt and the people who he tried to save dead. He was broken from his reminiscence by a scream coming from the room next door. Without hesitation, he sprung from his bed, old service pistol in hand, and bashed in the door to his neighbor's room. Inside, a man in white army uniform had pressed a young woman to the wall, her pants already around his ankles and a knife against her throat. He was barely able to turn around before 3 shots rang out. The rapist fell to the floor without a sound. The girl ran out of the room and downstairs, and he sprinted back into his room. He gathered his gear, opened the window, and jumped. He would have to find another place to sleep. Discretion is often the better part of valor. Go. We got the Imperial Guard Division. And let's go ahead and work on making our play. I'll save real quick. For our civilian industry taken care of and growing, our borders are secured with defensive schemes in place and the military's pressing needs attended to. We can finally look outward and begin the process of finishing what should have been done years ago. The systematic destruction of the Russian Fascist Party and its thugs. Now's the time we can capitalize on their squabbling, destroy the party, and recover the territory that we worked so hard to conquer when the Union collapsed. The Bolsheviks couldn't destroy us, and neither could the fascist betrayal. Now that we're able, we can finally display the strength and endurance of a true white movement. There we go. Field marshals. I think logistics wizard. We'll start off on. Also, I noticed. Yeah, civilian leaning gives us some horrible military debuff, so it's good that we focused on military a little bit. Yeltsov stood at the ready, his face betraying nothing as he stood in full uniform, side by side with 50 other men, in front of Tsar Mikhail II. In reality, behind his stoic face of loyalty was a mind filled with excitement. He, the son of a peasant, specifically selected out of thousands, no, tens of thousands, to be a member of the Imperial Guard. Yeltsov, a man who mere years ago had been private, eating bottom barrel food not fit for a rat, was now the man who would guard the Tsar with his life. Then, suddenly, the Tsar was there, stepping out of the top of the palace's steps. Newfound energy possessed him, and he wanted to desperately yell his loyalty to the man who would be the Tsar to all men. "Subjects," began the Tsar, his voice clearly held by all men in attendance. "I am." For a couple seconds, there was silence, whether inspirational words should have been. He had to say that he also had an instinctual need to see the face of his fellow guards, but he knew better than to do that in front of the Tsar. But still, he couldn't be the only one who find this strange. This speech, if you call that, continued on for another 5 minutes, although based off the actual content Yeltsov guessed, it would have been a minute at most. Occasionally, the Tsar stumbled over his words before correcting himself, clearly embarrassed. But the gist was obvious. He, Yeltsov, was a member of the Imperial Guard, tasked with protecting the Emperor's life. For that, Yeltsov was planning to be part of it. Perhaps he should let someone else speak for him next time. Let's do a focus on research. Actually, our academic base proving will be good. Should train our troops as well, actually. Looks like we can add some more factories. We'll do one of each. And we got some more factories to assign. How are we doing so far? Oh, all looks pretty decent to me. I think along this we'll also go for some close air support. Add another one there to get that pumped out. We could raid the Satka again. I think it might glitch out if we do that, so I'm not going to bother really. Let's do modern artillery corps. Two world wars have conclusively proven that the superiority of artillery on the battlefield is a significant force multiplier. And this is one of the few principles that our older and younger officers both agree upon. However, the artillery possesses both few numbers and antique in manufacture. It may be expensive, but if we use a new and modern artillery corps, using our customized designs and organization, we can ensure that we have the best artillery in Siberia. Well, it doesn't matter because we're about to end this. Which I'm probably fine with. Mikhail II stood outside the door, the crack in the window allowing the voices within to be clearly heard. His generals were holding a meeting, and the Tsar felt it would be impolite to interrupt, feeling content to remain just outside and listen. The unmistakable voice of General Leonid Mustafin spoke first. I'm not overly concerned by the fascist militias, but I understand Makovsky has recruited a large mercenary force. They're experienced fighters and could be a real problem for our soldiers. At the general's words, which seemed to imply conflict, was about to begin, Mikhail couldn't help but begin to worry. Was war really coming so soon? Second distinctive voice, that of Boris Shepanov, the army's chief of staff, spoke next. I disagree, Leonid. Mercenaries want to fight bandits, not real armies. When they see our soldiers, they're scattered to the wind and leave the fascists to their fate. And that rabble won't stand a chance against our forces. Mikhail felt his heart sink. His suspicions were correct, and regardless of what he might want, his realm was going to war. He tried not to think about all the ways it could very poorly go for him. Trying so hard, in fact, that he accidentally pushed the door open. Well, that's all well and good, said a third figure, that of General Vladimir Abramov, but we still have no plans for the occupation of these territories. How do you propose? Surprised at the appearance of their sovereign, Abramov trailed off as all the generals turned their attention to Mikhail. Shepanov was first to speak. Your Majesty, Your Imperial Majesty, we have exciting news. The pen is set aside and the sword shall be drawn. Okay. I didn't even notice we had a reluctant czar. Easy figurehead. Let's work on the vestigial empire. Admin Semenov, hero of the Russian Civil War and vanguard of the White Movement in the East, is dead. As the old Cossack is sent off to his eternal rest, well deserved after nearly half a century of tireless service to Russia, we must do everything in our power to ensure that his life's work does not falter in his absence. To tackle this enormous challenge presented by our mission of liberation, critical challenges will have to be made to the character of our movement. No longer is a white army a scrappy band of old exiles riding to battle on horseback as though their glory days had never passed. As our territory grows and our ranks fill with fresh faces, it is clear that we must shift our eyes to the future. Thus, the transition to a proper nation-state commences. Legal scholars have already begun work on the empire's new constitution, putting great emphasis upon the divinely ordained authority of the Tsar and his loyal generals, while rejecting the chaotic mob rule that led to Russia's fall from grace. It is from these humble seeds that a legitimate body of government will sprout forth, God willing, one worthy of prosecuting the liberation of our sacred motherland. Here we go. How are we doing? For now. Alright, so preserving the pact. Things come to an end, including the awkward lines of Chita and Magadan. It will either get forgotten or alternatively get teared apart before anyone can expect it. So if we select it, well, this is weirdly worded. It says if we don't select it within 60 days, the non-aggression pact is canceled. But if we select it within 60 days, it also gets canceled. I don't get it. But perhaps it is not mine to get right now. Is this their Smuta tree? It is not. How many units do they have? We have no idea, do we? Let's prevent chaos from spreading. Yeah, this'll do, I think. Although, I'll save and then see what happens. Part of me wonders if it's a good idea to try to take out Irkutsk now. No, it is most likely not a good idea. Well, it's worth taking a gander. The clicking of boots sounded in the halls of the royal palace in Chita as people filled into the meeting room. Most were old, with hair as white as their czar's loyalties. Some bore medals on their chests, while others carried books to the door. As the doors closed, they found themselves beholden to Boris Shepanov, the one who called them here. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It's with great urgency I have called you all here. As you are all aware, we've been in the process of declaring a new empire, but have lacked government legitimacy. Sorry. Outside of the current Tsar. So for that reason, we're here to devise a new constitution for our new empire based on proper imperial law. Without further ado, let's get started. For the Tsar. The rest of the room promptly repeated the declaration. It did not take long for the room erupted into new shouting matches over what to incorporate and include. Scholars feared decrepit books, sparred over conflicting laws. Meanwhile, generals disregarded any precedent and pushed for what they needed to conduct war. These debates had raged out on into the night, but by the following morning they reached consensus. In the end, the generals went out. A new autocracy was created and comprising the Tsar and his dear generals who had humbly written the document. Some freedoms were included at local level, but more practical than benevolent. The whole thing was wrapped in Byzantine and convoluted jargon as a concession to the scholars. Despite the bickering that preceded it, everyone agreed. There had been some compromises, sure, but an uneasy consensus was achieved. Of course, Chepanov's promise and threats had been a helping hand in keeping everyone placated, but that was expected. If all said and done, it had been the room's approval, and that was the only approval that mattered. The Tsar's absence was of little concern. Actually, I think it might be a good idea to try to do a sneaky little incursion. And HoI Sobchak walked up the stairs to the royal palace in Chita. As mayor of a city of the same name, he had been assured a place at the table to help create a constitution for imperial state he found himself in. He smiled as he reached the top, and to the guard beside the door, oblivious as to what was about to play out. Good afternoon. It's a bit chilly today, isn't it? I've come to attend the Constitutional Convention today. Mr. Chepanov should have said something about my attendance. As the mayor of the city, I assume this shouldn't be a surprise. Upon his announcement, the guard suddenly moved to stand between the mayor and the entrance. His face turned solid and his muscles tightened, preparing himself in case things became heated. Well, I apologize for the confusion, but you are not cleared for the conference. I advise you to turn back around and leave, Mr. Sobchak. The meeting has already been underway for a few hours. A sudden wind rushed up through the stairs as the guard finished the words. Joel's face turned still, albeit tinged with confusion. Chepanov had promised him a spot, and now he was told that he had missed it. However, his confusion was brief and replaced with the unfortunate revelation that Chepanov had lied. Suddenly, his isolation heading up the stairs made sense. Not wanting to risk anything worse, he quietly agreed with the guard before heading back down the stairs into his office. After all, there was always work to be done, whether or not it was appreciated. It's no country for good politicians. Well, I think let's head down this part first to rule them all. Very soon, we will be expanding beyond the city of Chita, and this fact has required us to reevaluate administration. If we are to really expand our government's reach and capacity to restore order to all its territories, we'll need to begin laying down the groundwork for a more formal and orderly system of governance. Of course, nobody's suggesting continuing military rule at the time. No, military rule shall continue for the time being, but we shall make efforts to increasingly delegate governance to local civilian governors stationed within the newly acquired territories. This new framework for government should prove far more stable and efficient in the long term. Alright, let's attack Satka. Oh, we got another unit. And you know what? Oh, this will take supplies from... Fuck it. You know what? We'll just back down. Rule them all. Let's export the Chita model. Self-repeating mission by the name exporting the Chita model will be activated under the guidance of HoI Sobchak. Gives 1 of 5 possible random bonuses to our states for the duration of a smooth time. Yeah, let's do it. Gold streets of Chita remained orderly. The people content, and the economy, even while isolated in the scorned Siberia, has remained stable. It is, without a doubt, the model city of Vizar's resurgent domain, and all of it is due in part to the efforts of its mayor, Anatoly Sobchak. His method and model have undeniably done us much good, and could be used elsewhere. And as the reclamation of the Far East goes underway, we find ourselves in control of a number of new population centers. Time has come for us to take reference from the system and apply it. We have much to learn laying the bricks of resurgent empire. Why not start here? And like that, we are at war. Got another unit. So let's get him added in. And there we go. Let's do the tentacles of bureaucracy. The bureaucracy must expand, and to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy. While it may sound like the punchline to a joke, this is a real and serious concern that's plaguing our government. So far, one suggested solution has been contemplated: the formation of new imperial companies. These imperial companies will aid the the development and reconstruction of newly conquered territories. So war is unfortunately quite damaging, and any region we conquer will require serious investment in order to bring it up to acceptable standards. I will have you attack into there. That way we can ensure that we can... Do we really have no one going there? Yeah, not decide that was a good idea. I mean, okay. And that autosave is killing me a little bit. Infantry. Let's do infrastructural reserve. We have no supply out here. That's a little not good. Let's shift that up. Guy to there, and we're going to get a new focus going. Means in our midst. With decades of Bolshevik occupation, not every Russian citizen has remained true. The territory we stepped upon isn't the same as it was those decades ago, and the marks of communism, our foulest enemy, have been left upon the population. Their sympathy after so many years of traitors brainwashing has been ingrained in the cause of usurpers. They rest in our midst, and while our army is facing their conquest, we must act. Proper civilian police force is necessary to ensure the loyalties of our citizens and maintain stability in the reclaimed territories. We'll fill the role that the military regretfully cannot, and with this, ensure that the process of reintegration moves far more smoothly by time our position is secured. Through order stability and through stability, the mandate of Vizar will be secured. Let's do some lessons from the Bolsheviks. If not for our defeat 40 years ago, we wouldn't be here. Thanks to our losses, we find ourselves in this position, and yet the failure of the past cannot be forgotten. The Bolsheviks, no matter how much we despise them, seize military victory, and now we find ourselves facing a question. Do we utilize lessons from our greatest enemy? It's a souring thought to many on the high command, but it's one we need to address. Taking lessons from the communists may seem delusional at the moment, but we have no other option if we wish to assert the empire within Siberia. Alright, don't attack and let them attack us. No, let's just loop there for now. No, don't attack. If we aren't... I didn't realize that was a separate province. That's going to be good to do. And we can't do any more research right now, so... let's do hospital construction. Actually, no, let's do... do we want to do batch or mass production? I think mass production's probably the better play. Do a lesson. Beat out the budget. Encourage the troops. Let's commit to the war effort, get more division speeds going. Exploring the Chita model. Toy subjects one of the prime assets in the facility sector. He's an ambitious man too, so let him work on improving our territories beyond this hometown to Chita. Sure thing. Let's do the admin's dream. Our admin, looking across the Manchurian border, always watched over the depths of Siberia. Stealing in his thoughts amongst the tinges of nostalgia and defeat, there's always a dream. Even within the pains of exile in Harbin, dwelling amongst the fascistic traitors we now stand against. The dream that was one he never allowed to be deferred. The dream that one day the White Army would surge from the ashes and march once more across Seymour. Now, as we rest at the cusp of victory, that dream seems just within our reach. Yet, of course, we must make the adjustments to see it secured. The White Army, as of now, is relatively makeshift and structure pieced together in the fight for reclamation. The admin, if he were here, would have understood this slight, yet worked to restructure it. In part, we will do the same. Once again, the White Army's banner shall wave over Siberia, the admin's dream after all these years realized. Alright, let's speed out the budget. And then prevent some chaos from spreading. Could do some more external investments. That would actually be quite nice at this point. Let's do it. New research. Let's do the 58 infantry kit. Also got research done for industry stuff. Let's do consumer good production efficiency. Manganon's going after the Pacific Fleet. Suppose that gives us time. Let's deal with the inconvenient figurehead. Grigory Semyonov was well aware that in order to build rapport with the people, the white movement would require a figurehead commanding national pride to rally behind. To that, and Semyonov chose to seek the restoration of the monarchy. While Vladimir was a true heir, he had thrown his lot in with German invaders, an unforgivable betrayal in the eyes of the Ataman. Thus, invitations were sent to every other Romanov we could find to join us in Harbin under the pretense of a dinner party in celebration of their dynasty. Only one replied. His name was Mikhail Andreevich. To say this arrangement was far from ideal would be Generous indeed. Mikhail was certainly not our first choice, nor our second, or even our 10th, and yet he's all that we have. The Tsar is already viewed with skepticism by his people, and is widely disliked by the White Officers' Corps. Boris Shepinov, in particular, was amongst the first to protest the admin's choice of monarch, but in order to honor his comrade's wishes, he intends to make the best of the situation. People need not know about the Tsar's dubious claims for now. He is their rightful monarch, and let none say otherwise. Oh, we got another production unit going. Do civilian stuff for now. Heh. Well, that's funny. Well, we'll let them grind themselves out on Yakutia. And we should probably stop training troops after this guy. Yeah, that'll give us a full army, and we should be able to take it from there. The Tsar's palace was a lonely place, more so at night. When Mikhail had first moved in, things had been different. Early sleeps turned into early mornings, and he hardly ever noticed the hugeness and emptiness of the place. But as days turned into months, that turned into years, things began to change. Late sleepless, silent nights blended into lethargic, lonely days. More and more alcohol was brought into the palace, and everyone knew who was consuming it. He had bodyguards, sure, faceless children of the emigres, but Mikhail knew he couldn't name a single one of them. One of these long, sleepless nights, defined by Mikhail's wonders and regret, the powerless Tsar lay in a chair overlooking a dark window. You have to be... Alright, we'll send you out to here, just in case. He couldn't see out of it. The streetlight outside was damaged and bright. The bright lights of the palace contrasted so deeply with the black night outside that Mikhail only saw his reflection. His mind wandered often, but tonight he could only think of one thing: his father. He never endorsed Mikhail's visit to Arbin, even begging him not to go. Mikhail had attempted to write letters to his father many times, with nearly a dozen written in total. And yet he lamented he had never received a single response. He had once been close to his father, but his deafening silence had further crippled Mikhail. Glassful of liquor in hand, he wondered why his father refused to respond. Was it punished Mikhail for leaving, or perhaps he had moved and not received the letters? A dreadful thought passed through the Tsar's mind. Maybe his father didn't care to respond at all. He finished the brown liquid in a single belt, the first of many, it was sure. Mikhail missed his father. He missed his home and his family. His mind shifted one thing: another letter. Tonight, the Tsar writes a final letter. Well, let's do... most interesting man in the world. Propaganda is a good thing, especially a blunt one. We'll be able to utilize it via the Let Mikhail Be All Known decision once this focus is complete. Mikhail Andreevich is, to put bluntly, a dreadfully boring man. Circumstances of arrival have rendered him a nervous wreck, jumping in his own shadow. He cannot speak Russian to save his life, and only holds a rudimentary understanding of the language gleaned from whatever gets barked at him. It's possible that this wouldn't matter if he had charisma, but tragically Mikhail possesses all the social acumen of a clinically depressed plumber. Perhaps it would be wise for the time being to keep the Tsar out of the public view, to grant him time to acclimate, and in his absence, craft a more convenient narrative. Behold, the Tsar of Holy Russia, a veteran of the Second World War, a monarch proudly served the Fleet Air Arm. After a career of daring aerial heroics that earned him too many medals to count, the humble Mikhail opted to retire to a modest life as a brilliant aeronautical engineer. The admin voiced his plea to the world, however, only our gallant Mikhail Andreevich was brave enough to answer him. On one snowy night at Harbin, he astonished the white exiles with his commitment to liberating Russia's people, and now he stands at the forefront of Russia's salvation. It's all complete nonsense, of course, but our loyal subjects need not see it that way. Well, our debt's been paid off, and we still have some infrastructure. Do we want to do... yeah, what's a little extra infrastructure in Chita? Why not? We'll send you up to here. The crackling of fire mixed with Tchaikovsky while the evening sun set over Chita. Mikhail sat in the homely study, found in his place with a book in his hands. He enjoyed the quiet time. It let him think and get away from the madness that was Shepanov and his clique. Plus, the reading gave him an excuse to practice his Russian. His relaxation was interrupted by a change in the radio. Tchaikovsky had been replaced with talking of some kind, an unfortunate change of events, but he had learned by now he had no control over such things. However, as the program went on, he could make out his name, and he realized it was describing his life. Shifting his attention fully to the radio, he found the description creative to say the least. Since it wanted to escort become a synonym for kidnap, he thought to himself. Descriptions of exotic Australia and the cultural depthness were met with similarly bemused thoughts by the Tsar. However, as the program went on, he found their little lies quite flattering, which had the effect of loosening his lips. Savior of Russia and all its people from Nazism. A tactful reformer and fighter for all Russians, you say? The man who inspired his men to defeat the communists? Crikey, that all does have quite a nice ring, doesn't it? They should be this supportive more often. Fortunately for Mikhail, he was not alone. 2 guards stood at the door and got a good glimpse of the episode playing out before him. In fairness, they had been used to seeing the Tsar unbecoming like this. What did surprise him was a smidge of confidence they saw from the Tsar, and for that, they raised an eyebrow. In a rare instance, they even saw the Tsar smiling. Let's do pamphlets, posters, and programs. Even after so many years living in a faraway Harbin, the motherland remained alive in the minds of the White Army exile soldiers, a vivid dream, so close to realization, yet so far. When the time had finally come to return home, however, it soon became clear that although the exiles had never forgotten the Rupe's memories of her sons had long since lapsed from Russia's thoughts, generation after generation had been born raised under the watch of the Bolshevik devils, poisoning their minds with Lenin's lies and slowly eroding the traditions of the past. Even now, the newly liberated people of the Far East remain unconvincingly restored monarchy's intentions, their lenses tinted red from decades of indoctrination. If the true Russia is to be resurrected, the consent of the people is paramount. Propaganda will be of help, but actions will reach their hearts faster than any poster or speech. With aid of Chita's civilian administration, work programs will begin to phase out military workers in favor of labor drafted from the people, granting job opportunities to the commoners by the good graces of His Imperial Majesty. In time, the people of Russia will rediscover for themselves the benefits an empire has to offer. Can we just fucking finish this war already? Okay, there we go. Alright. Let's hit the front line here. Oh shoot, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be the only contender on our fucking door. Which on the bright side, that means we can scavenge for loot with relative ease. Let's occupy the Sakha Republic. Let's Mikhail be all known. Let's swap out 2 improved infantry rifles. And then a perfectly legitimate claimant. Mikhail's wide-eyed panic has slowly begun to give way to quiet resignation, secluding himself within his dacha while propagandists work around the clock to shape his new image. Perhaps His Imperial Majesty will never truly understand the importance of his role, but as long as the narrative can be controlled, it matters little. Thanks to efforts of state, the people are content with their ruler at best and blissfully apathetic at worst. Now the time's come to a peak beyond the horizon, and attempt to build bridges with the white movement abroad. Most of them have shunned the efforts of the White Army so far, considering Mikhail's reign to be a farce on their accounts of his marriage. While their complaints would have held water in years past, the situation is rapidly changing. Trans by call government's forces continue to gain momentum, accomplishments which have surely not gone unnoticed. Perhaps these victories can be used to entice other white organizations into taking our efforts more seriously, and display the Chita government as a last best hope for a restored monarchy. Mikhail may not be legitimate under legal grounds, but Romanoff blood runs through his veins nonetheless, and crowns are not merely warranted through scraps of paper alone. Well, I think that should be something we all can get behind. If not this video, then perhaps another time. I'm going to have to leave things here now, though. So thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you have any comments, feedback, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments again, and I do appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. Have a sub on notification bell, keep updated with these uploads as they come out. And I might just hold on to the reserves for now, though. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead, up the army funding, and I'll go and leave things there. But thanks always for watching, my friends. My name has been Mr. Dogbutt333. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.